Hello and a very warm welcome to the Late Breaking F1 podcast presented by Harry Eade, Sam Sage and me, Ben Hocking. Today, previewing the Canadian Grand Prix that's coming up this weekend. But Sam, all the news.
Yeah, so much news. I went and bought some new frames at IKEA this week and I had a roast dinner midweek for craziness, right? The news is popping off.
You've had a roast dinner on a Wednesday?
I know! Breaking news! Roast dinner on a Wednesday. That's what you meant, right, Ben? Is that what you meant?
Kick him out. Honestly, Sam's been a nightmare already. We've only just started.
Leave me alone. So much news. Thank you, Formula One, for constantly fueling this show that we call a podcast. We've got plenty to talk about. Harry, again, you're here.
I made another one, folks. You're welcome. Look, it's we can't be mad at them because they did it before a Wednesday. I guess our only qualm would be that they did it on a Monday, which is immediately after our Sunday episode. So it kind of, again, they've got us again, especially when we talked about Alpine firing people. And then on Monday, Alpine fired someone again.
Hilarious. The irony of us mocking them is like, well, what do we do after a bad week? Fire someone? Yes, is the answer to that question.
Bruno Firmin sits down on a Monday morning. He's just like, right, who do we fire today then?
Next, you.
Driver. There you go.
Yeah.
A bit of a spoiler that leads into a plug. I was listening to some old episodes earlier this week because I'm currently, or have prepared, a quiz in our Discord that's taking place at the end of this month, which I think is Saturday 29th, if you want to get involved. I was listening to an episode from August of last year where I think it was just after Otmar and Alan Permain had been fired. Harry, you made the identical point that you did on Sunday. It was just great that nothing's changed in like 8 months.
Stop firing people.
Yeah, I think you said those words exactly.
Harry's actually just a soundboard and we have just 10 different sounds to play for Harry to reply to.
I'd be terrible as the advisor on The Apprentice. Lord Sugar.
We're not talking about The Apprentice.
No, please stop firing people.
Not again. Before we get into our main topics, of which there are quite a few, as already referenced, just another shout after the shout that we had on Sunday's episode that we do still have tickets available for our live show that's coming up on the 2nd of July in London. All of the information is available on our Patreon at the moment. It's still Patreon only for the time being, but all tickets will go on general sale on Saturday. So if you'd like to guarantee a spot, you can sign up to Patreon, find the information there. We'd love to see you. But if you'd like to wait for general sale, you can do. Saturday, that will go live.
Thanks to everyone that's already bought something. You're the best.
We'll see you there. You're our favourites.
But you can also be one of our favourites if you want to, and you're not already signed up. We've got a lot to talk about. We have Esteban Ocon and Alpine no longer being together as of 2025. We've got Sergio Perez signing a contract extension at Red Bull. Before we get into that, we will preview the Canadian Grand Prix coming up this weekend with the leading question, Sam. Can Ferrari do something that they've only done 3 times in the hybrid era and go back to back?
Hold on, everyone. Statman! Because it's been a while. That was a great statistic. Only 3 times back-to-back in the hybrid era.
Yeah, it's not good.
That's horrible. Oh, dear. Yeah. Didn't realise it was that bad for Tifosi. Yeah. Can they do it? I'm going to be optimistic and say there is definitely a chance that they could do it. And I don't just mean an outside chance that a load of people crash in front of them and they happen to be the one person that's carrying on. I mean a legitimate competitive chance. The upgrades seem to be working, but the troublesome moment for them is that Monaco, as we've said so many times on this show, is an outlier. It's so difficult to know if what you're bringing to Monaco is directly available to work elsewhere around the calendar. It's not like they brought all the upgrades to Miami and it was a perfect run for them, much like what McLaren did with Lando Norris, where you go, right, we've got a couple of examples now where we know in different environments, different track surfaces, different areas of the world, the car works. Ferrari committed to a Monaco full upgrade, and yes, they got the victory, but you'd argue that actually, if you're going to remove one track from the whole calendar to not analyze for car setup and upgrades and how it's working for you, Monaco's the one that goes. So I have faith that Freddie Vass knows what he's talking about. I have faith that those drivers understand how to use the upgrades. And actually, I think that Ferrari are taking good steps forward in their abilities, in the way they develop their car, and their understanding of their car's journey and how it's developing in that developmental arc. Do I think they're right there immediately to start taking wings off of both Red Bull and I would argue McLaren? I still think it's an outside chance. I still would say that they are third favourites, although it's a very close fought thing. Leclerc is on fire at the moment. He's been absolutely wiping the floor with Carlos Sainz pretty much since Australia. He's been on top form. Of course, he brilliantly well around Monaco. I really think he's going to bring the A game again, moving on to Canada. But it's just whether the car itself outright over race pace is going to have enough to make sure that they could beat Red Bull and McLaren. Because unlike Monaco, overtakes are not just possible, but highly probable at the Gilles Villeneuve circuit. So that's where it let them down. So let's see if they can kind of make it back up, not have a car stuck right behind them. Leclerc showed that at the end of Monaco that he was able to pull away. But we'll see if they can do that in a proper Grand Prix where overtaking is perfectly viable. Possible. Don't know if they're going to be winning that one outright, though.
What do you think, Harry? Any chance for Ferrari this weekend?
Like Sam says, I think it remains to be seen. And it goes back to my point I think we made after the Monaco GP when we were asking whether it was... did we have a championship fight? And I was on the fence, obviously. But I was saying, I think we just need one more race to see whether that actually truly develops. Because, yes, the Ferrari win was great in Monaco, but it's, as you say, Sam, it's Monaco, and it's very hard to tell whether that was just a Monaco-specific thing or that Ferrari have developed a really decent car here. So I want to say, yeah, they'll be in the mix this weekend. It's going to be... I think we'll know after practice whether how quickly they're going to be there, whether Verstappen is back up at the top, or whether it's a tough fight. We saw for a part of the Imola weekend, they were there in practice and they looked like the favourites going into qualifying, and it only took a great lap from Verstappen to beat them. So I'd expect them to be up there. If they're not at the front, I think they're at least giving Verstappen and Red Bull a headache. Certainly giving Sergio Perez a headache, I imagine. And we obviously can't discount McLaren too. So. It's quite a tantalising prospect. I really hope, and this is not, again, being biased against Red Bull here, but I just really hope that it is we do actually have a battle between Red Bull, Ferrari, and indeed McLaren, because it's what we've been missing for a while. And yeah, we've had a good couple of races in terms of a different winner, different winners and a bit of a battle at the front, but it's just been, some of them have been a bit circumstantial. So I'm hoping we truly get a good weekend of tight racing.
And that's the first point that I wanted to make, is that even if it ends up being misguided, it feels good to be this excited about F1 at the moment, because the last time we had 3 different teams win in sort of 3 races in a row, you have to go all the way back to 2021, the middle of 2021, when Hamilton won the British Grand Prix, then Esteban Ocon for Alpine won the Hungarian Grand Prix. More on Ocon later.
Oh, no.
And Max Verstappen won the Belgian Grand Prix. So you got 3 different teams there winning 3 races in a row. And no disrespect to Esteban Ocon and Alpine, but it wasn't on pure pace that they won that Hungarian Grand Prix. Whereas here, this last 3-run stretch where we've had Lando Norris win in Miami, we've had Verstappen win in Imola and Leclerc last time out. Yeah, you can maybe argue Miami might have gone differently if Verstappen didn't make the error and went over that bollard, but I feel like Norris won that race on good pace, and the last 3 Grand Prix, they have genuinely been challenged. So can Ferrari go back to back? It is a very different type of circuit to Monaco. That can't be denied, but I think they can actually take heart in another result that they've had this season, the other win that they had, which was the Australian Grand Prix. And it sounds weird because it was quite a long time ago, but Carlos Sainz and Ferrari had genuinely good pace at that Grand Prix. And if you're looking at 2 circuits that are quite similar on the calendar, Albert Park and Circuit Gilles Villeneuve are pretty similar. When you think about it is a really good mix of high speed and, technical sections of the circuit. They're both semi-permanent street circuits. They're both very heavy on the brakes. So I feel like there are quite a lot of similarities you can take between those 2 circuits. And as such, I think Ferrari, they have a chance. And if they can win here, similar to the point that's already been made, if they can win here, or at least be close to winning here, then suddenly you're building up that catalogue of different venues where you're being competitive. And that gives more reason to believe it's sustainable than just a one-off or a bit of a 2 or 3 race stretch. That bodes well for the future. Sam, what about Red Bull? Do you think their struggles at Monaco are likely to appear again? Or, as sort of referenced already, is that going to be an anomaly for Monaco?
I'm going to stand by the anomaly factor, but I don't think it's all kind of roses and sunshine for Red Bull here. I do think that the development of the car is stalling, and I do think that means that McLaren and Ferrari are hot on their heels. Equally, look at the tracks, as you've already mentioned so far this season, where Red Bull have not been... Okay, not successful, but also not dominant. Australia, you mentioned. Okay, Verstappen had the failure, but Perez could not get through the traffic that was around him anyway. And, okay, I think Verstappen would have gone on to win had he not had the failure. But like you said, Ben, I think Sainz was incredibly quick and would have put up a really strong fight for the remainder of that Grand Prix. And then you've got Miami, which I actually think is also very similar to Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve, which in the sense it's got the very, very long back straight. It's got a couple of very tight sweeping corners, very fast sections. I think there's some similarities there, especially with the fact that it's almost kind of a street circuit in that essence. So I think that Red Bull have got the ability. Verstappen has got the ability. But I don't think it's now a given. I don't think we go into this and we all go Verstappen pole, Verstappen wing, Verstappen fastest lap with absolute assurances that we're going to be right like we were for the last season. I would not be surprised to seeing our pole 1, 2, 3 predictions coming up if we are all a little bit scattered about who picks up pole, who picks up the victory. I think Verstappen is going to have to drive like a world champion. I think he's going to have to push himself like he did at Imola, where he's going to have to really absorb the pressure, keep Norris away from him, make sure he's able to manage the tyres, the car, extract the pace out wherever he needs to, and not crumble under pressure like we saw in Monaco, where I do believe that final lap that he ran in Q3, he faltered. He put it in the wall. I'm not saying that he would have got pole position had he finished the lap, but I do think he could have gone quicker. I do think he could have been more competitive. And I think it was his own fault that he put the car in the wall. So there is risk at Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve. We know that with the Wall of Champions and several other corners. I know that Turn 8 has now got grass all around it, which is fantastic to see that there's risk to running wide at this corner. There's a lot of walls. There's a lot of chance for crashes. And we usually do see some incidents in Canada. So he's going to have to be on his A game. I don't think it's going to be a bit of a waltz in the park. We won't be hearing any messages of, where is everyone? Anymore. I think he's really going to have to push to deliver.
Because he often did that.
Wait, once is enough, my friend.
Classic laughing down the radio. Where is everyone?
Verstappen all the time.
Wow, that's a spot on Verstappen if I've ever heard one.
Nail him.
What do you think, Harry? Do you think that Red Bull back to normality, or are they going to be a little bit nervous heading into the weekend?
I think they're going to be a bit nervous, and I mean, we're saying this, and it's going to be a Verstappen whitewashing coming, but
Guarantee.
The last time they were confident about their performance was pre-Miami, and even then before that we had an Australian GP which he didn't win. I know that was down to a failure. But yeah, they've not had the dominant car that they once had for quite a while now. So I think they are going to be nervous. I think they'll be confident in the fact that I think Monaco will be an anomaly for them. They were off the pace there, but it's Monaco, and sometimes that just happens. We've seen it with other dominant eras in F1 with Mercedes, and go back to the Ferrari Schumacher years. They had duff Monacos as a part of a dominant season. So that sometimes happens. So I don't believe they're going to be off the pace, but they're not going to be comfortable, because I don't think they've been comfortable for a good few races now. So I fully expect Verstappen to be up there, but it's going to take an Imola-esque performance that he delivered there, where I think he really pulled it out of the bag, for him to be back on top. So it's good. We want to see him pushed, and I think this is what's going to happen.
They had a real issue at Monaco in terms of running over the curbs and height at which they could run their car. And as Verstappen said, it wasn't necessarily an issue for that weekend specifically. He seems to think it's a more ongoing issue that just presented itself at Monaco more than it does at other circuits. But if you look at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, a lot of chicanes and a lot of running over curbs. Apart from the hairpin, which ends the second sector, pretty much every other corner on this track is a chicane, and you are riding the curbs on almost all of them, including the last couple of corners, which leads into the Wall of Champions. That corner, you are, especially in qualifying, you are riding those curbs. So I think that this could be an issue for Red Bull again this weekend. Not as much as Monaco, but I think it could be an issue. And I actually think there's a bit of pressure on the likes of Ferrari and McLaren to perform here, because if you look at the other tracks that are coming up after Canada, we go to Spain, Austria, and then Silverstone. I don't think the issues will be as prevalent there. I can foresee Red Bull getting back to something close to the form that they used to have at those 3 circuits, in which case it's a good opportunity, maybe, if they're not doing quite so well here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, for one of those 2 teams to take advantage of that. Be interesting to see. Well,
Mercedes will go on a win at Spain as well, right?
Oh, sorry, yes. Verstappen will be 3rd at Spain, which is basically P1 when you take out Mercedes at that track.
Yeah, goat track for them.
Yeah. Fancy doing the other tracks, Mercedes. Should we do some bold predictions?
Oh, let's get bold.
Oh, no, I knew I forgot something. Please hold.
Let's get bold.
Ben, do you want to say it one more time?
Bold. Yeah.
Take 2. Should we do some bold predictions?
Yeah, great idea.
Gather around, little children, and listen to my song about my F1 bold predictions and how they'll all be wrong.
It's gorgeous.
Would have been really funny if you picked the wrong button there.
Like Big Brain Strat. No, anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Bold predictions. Harry, you're apparently now the king of bold predictions since you've got 2 right this year. Do you want to go first?
See yoke.
Yeah, sure. I'm going for Lance Stroll in the top 7.
7?
It's his home Grand Prix.
Isn't that usually a reason for them not to do well?
Well, that's a valid point. But he's had he has had 1 6th place so far this year, and apart from that, he's not been in the top 8 at all. So, or top 7 at all. So that's what I'm going for. He's going to pull out of the bag at Canada.
I am going for a super close qualifying. I'm going to say the top 4 cars are separated by less than a 10th.
Ooh, baby.
Yep. Yes, please.
I'd love it.
We're going to be watching it together, so...
Oh, true. Yes.
Maybe a little reaction video of that one.
Yeah.
We'll use Harry's phone as always.
We have cameras now.
Okay, but can you both bring those, please?
Yeah.
Yes, my one. I think that at least we haven't had a crash here. I think since at least 2022, if not 2021, where it was K-Mag in qualifying. But I think at least 3 cars across the weekend will crash into the Wall of Champions.
Goodness
I
me.
can't wait for like 3 cars to brush it, and you'll be like, "Yeah, there's the win."
If he gets pit stop from Stake, I get that.
F1 posted earlier about the Wall of Champions and why it's called that. There's like on Instagram, and it's funny because obviously we've got the name in like 1999 from Hill, Schumacher, and Villeneuve going into it, and then there was like it's like a carousel, so you're swiping through it, and then it goes, and then no other champion has crashed into it apart from Sebastian Vettel and Jenson Button. I'm like, this is actually a ridiculous name.
And also, Jenson Button wasn't a world champion when he hit the wall.
Well, exactly. That's a very good point. It was 2005, so technically, no one apart from Vettel. Anyway, it was just I saw that. I was like, actually, this is a stupid name.
25 years, not a single champion other than Vettel during their time of being a champion has hit that wall.
2 points. Firstly, you are absolutely correct. And secondly, we are so man shouts at cloud, aren't we? We're so like complaining about corner names and wall names. Like,
I bloody love it as well. I love this track. I love that corner. I'd love to go to the Canadian Grand Prix.
Best final corner in F1? That's a debate for another time.
We've done best first corner.
I know. Someone shouted us out for that. I think on Discord something the other day. Should we do our best last corners of F1?
I'm going to write that down.
The summer break is calling.
Best last corner. Pole 1, 2, 3. Let's move on to
best
that.
sector 2 corners. We got a long summer to fill.
Best corners named corner 13 to 14. Right, pole 1, 2, 3. Do you want me to go, Ben?
Yeah, go for it.
Pole, I'm going to say Verstappen will get pole, but I'm going to say the win will go to Norris, Verstappen second, and then I think Leclerc will be third.
Harry?
Verstappen on pole. I think Leclerc's going to do the back-to-back. Verstappen will be second, and Norris will be third.
How's about that? We've got 3 different predictions and 3 different winners from 3 different teams. So surely one of us is going to be right. Pole position, I've got Charles Leclerc. I've given Max Verstappen the win ahead of both of the Ferrari. Charles Leclerc second, Carlos Sainz third.
Oh, you don't think the McLaren are going to be having a happy time?
No.
Wow.
Norris is washed and Piastri ratio don't care.
Ah, good.
Excellent.
Take the L on that one.
Ratio don't care.
There'll be 1-2 now. Let's take our first break at this point. On the other side, we're going to be discussing Sergio Perez's new contract at Red Bull. Okay, everyone, welcome back. An announcement came out yesterday, and as already referenced in the intro, thank you very much for making the announcement on a Tuesday, Red Bull. It's much appreciated. The announcement says that Sergio Perez has signed until 2026, which would make this a 2-year contract extension. Although it does need to be said that Christian Horner, in his press release, only said that it was good to confirm our lineup for 2025, which does raise some questions about whether this is a true 2-year deal or whether it's a 1-year deal plus a team option on a second year, maybe for us to discuss in a moment. But Sam, first question on this, we'll talk about the length of the deal in a bit. Was Sergio Perez the right person for Red Bull at this time?
It's a tricky question. Because, in one facet, very much yes. Sergio Perez brings a lot of qualities. He is relatively reliable. He, for the most part, will get the car over the line. And also, in terms of sponsorship, he is an absolute diamond. I saw a list of the sponsors that Sergio Perez brings into Formula One the other day, and it's endless. It's got the huge names. People like Nescafe, Nestle are on there. Gigantic billion-dollar level companies all sponsor Sergio. Disney sponsor Sergio Perez, right? It's huge. So financially, he is a lovely thing to have in your team as well, which I'm sure is always nice for any company, let alone a company that isn't an actual auto manufacturer. Yeah, he's not having his best moment, though. And what I'm most surprised about with Sergio Perez being signed on is, okay, it gives them a safe pair of hands. It gives them consistency. It locks down what they already know for the last season, the season before, and now, of course, this season. But why? We've said this before. Why so early? Why are you doing it now? Why are you not allowing him to possibly feel a little bit of the pressure, put out a few good performances, and then in the summer break, perhaps by the time we get to Singapore, turn around and go, all right, Sergio, you've really pushed through what you struggled with last year. We're going to reward you for this. And what confuses me the absolute most about all of this is what is the point of the young driver program in Red Bull when Sergio Perez has been rewarded with a potential 2-year deal. Okay, fine. But behind him, you've got Yuki Tsunoda, Daniel Ricciardo, and Liam Lawson. It's rumored that Daniel Ricciardo is about to get another contract extension. So a guy that was with the junior team for a number of years, who then raced for the senior team for a number of years, who's then gone back to the junior team for a number of years, won't get promoted again to the senior team, at all. And then Yuki Tsunoda, who's been in this junior team for 4 years now, he's, useless? We're just throwing him away? And then Liam Lawson can't get in at all. So you're not having any new young talent coming through. And Carlos Sainz, well, you had an opportunity there to do something different, and he's in the bin, clearly. So I'm more confused not by Red Bull signing Perez in isolation. I can understand that. What to me is more confusing is the ramifications that it has on the wider Red Bull family and the driver market and what they stand for as a whole, because I'm a bit baffled by it. I think other people could do Sergio Perez's job and have more time, more potential, more growth, maybe not the sponsorship level, but there's a lot of other benefits that they bring. So I was a bit surprised that it's been come out as 2 years, but I understand some of the positives he brings. It's not the most ridiculous decision we've seen in Formula One.
Harry?
Firstly, whoever Sergio Perez's manager is,
give me his number.
Yeah. Can he manage us?
Yeah, we need him.
That is ridiculous negotiation skills. And that is not, I'm not trying to disrespect Sergio Perez here, but I there was no way I thought he was going to get a 2-year deal. I could have seen a 1-year extension, fine. But 2 years? Have we heard anything whether it's got a break in it and a break clause? I don't know.
I think it must do. Just based on what Christian Horner's said. Like I say, he was very clear to emphasize how important it was to confirm the 2025 lineup. And I feel like he only says that if there is some sort of team option, incentive-based second year in there. But yeah, I mean, Red Bull themselves said 2-year deal. So
maybe Red Bull know that Max Verstappen's actually leaving, and this is their safety net. No,
take the tinfoil away from
Here
Harry.
we go. Look, I can understand an extension on Sergio Perez. I could also understand if they'd left it until the end of the year, and because where is Sergio Perez going to go? Nowhere. So that surprises me that they've nailed this down so quickly, because Red Bull, you got options. Carlos Sainz, as you say, there's a plethora of young drivers. I also think, Sam, they heard your pump the brakes on Sunday and were like, well, just to prove him wrong, we're not going to have Yuki Tsunoda.
yeah, true.
Immediately rub my face in it.
Honestly, F1 teams, we think, listen to our podcast. Alpine, we must fire someone. Red Bull, we must hire someone.
Clearly. We actually are the F1 gods.
With the
We're like the fates.
With the Carlos Sainz mention there, do you think that possibly, you know, we think there's a good chance he's got another deal out there, whether it's Williams or Audi? Do you think it's reached a point maybe with Carlos Sainz where he needs to take one of them now, or they could disappear, and Red Bull weren't willing to give him that deal at this point in time?
Yeah, I think that's probably it, and maybe that's why Red Bull have decided they try. I think they've openly said they tried Carlos and he was too expensive, or they couldn't match Audi's deal, or at least Helmut Marko said that. So take that with a pinch of salt. But maybe they were like, well, fine, if you're not going to bite now, Red Bull know their worth, I think, here, and they've probably gone, well, all right, Carlos, if you're not going to bite now, then you probably never will. So we'll take someone else on. But yeah, like I said, my surprise is the length of the contract that they've given Sergio here. And maybe it's just to inspire confidence, because that you say, but I'm sure there must be a break clause in there somewhere to break out of it at the end of 2025. But the length of the contract and how early they've nailed this down surprises me. Again, there's not many other, I guess, eligible drivers out there that they take on. I know they've got the young drivers, but realistically, would those drivers currently all do a better job than Sergio Perez? Probably not. So what's the point in disrupting the cart? And also, Red Bull probably have, I mean, we think they'll still win this year's championship. Constructors might be tricky, depending how we go, but we think they'll still win this championship. They probably will win next year's championship. Maybe they just want to keep that consistency for the next couple of years, bag a couple of championships, and then see where they get to. And then maybe they need a riskier lineup in terms of the teammate to Max Verstappen. But yeah, it was a surprising one, to say the least.
It's something we've discussed quite a lot recently. And I think the answer of whether Perez is the right person for Red Bull, quite honestly, I think is still uncertain, because Ferrari and McLaren, as we know, have stepped up quite considerably recently. And as plainly as I can say it, Sergio Perez has not done enough. He hasn't been able to answer the call when these other teams have been far closer to Red Bull. If you're looking at the last three races, where, of course, Leclerc, Norris and Verstappen have all had one win each, if you were to take the points that have been accumulated over those three races, Charles Leclerc would be leading the championship on 62 points. Verstappen would be 3 points back on 59. Lando Norris would be 7 points back on 55. You'd then go to Sainz on 39, Piastri on 33, and then Perez would be in sixth place on 22. So despite the fact that Verstappen has won a race in the last three Grand Prix, he's won a sprint race in the last three races, he's been on the podium in another race, all of that is not enough. Just in isolation, these three races, that is not enough from Verstappen based on what Perez has done, because that only puts them on 81 points for the Constructors' Championship. That's 7 behind McLaren, what they've got in the last three races, and that's 20 points behind what Ferrari have got in that same stretch. They are third in the Constructors' Championship if you look at the last three Grand Prix. And we're coming up to a stretch where, who knows? I don't care how good of a team you are, and Red Bull are very, very good. You cannot expect dominance to continue. As soon as you do, that's the start of the downfall. You cannot expect it to continue. You have to, even if it does continue longer than you think it's going to, you have to at least treat it like something's around the corner. And who can definitely say next year that they will be back to where they were at the beginning of this season when Perez was mopping up second places? Because if they could guarantee that was the case, it makes 100% sense to keep Sergio Perez, because at the beginning of the season, he was doing everything he needed to do. But if Ferrari or McLaren can keep up this form, then suddenly, at least based on recent evidence, Perez has not been up to scratch. Points tell you that. So I'm surprised that they went ahead with this deal at this time. I figured they would wait. As I sort of speculated to Harry, I don't know whether it's the case of they just don't trust anyone within their junior program and Carlos Sainz wasn't an option. But even if Tsunoda and Ricciardo are not going anywhere, even if you're 98% sure that they're not going to do enough to impress you, there's no reason not to wait for a little bit. So that's what I would have done. I was surprised that it came as early as it did.
I would have personally turfed out the junior program. You know, for me, if you're going to keep Perez for 2 years, use the 2 years where you're not going to be promoting anyone from the junior program to the senior team. Get Lawson in, get someone else in, give them 2 years experience, see how they do. I don't understand what the junior program is for at the moment.
What would you have done?
A Minardi, do you mean?
Yes, I mean Minardi.
They might still do that, right?
They might do. I would have got rid of Ricciardo. I'll have announced that he'd be leaving at the end of the season. And I would have turfed out Tsunoda. If you're not going to bother at this point after 4 years of promoting him. It's not Tsunoda. I don't think that's Tsunoda's fault. I don't think that's Tsunoda's fault.
Inspire the confidence for the rest of the year.
If you had the choice of who went in the Red Bull seat, like would you have promoted Tsunoda?
Yeah, I'd have given him a risk. I'd have taken a punt on him, I think.
Lawson and like Hadjar or someone else.
The point is it's a junior team. If they're going to run this secondary team and take up a spot, which is an incredibly premium position, to the point where, you know, I heard a story today about how Hyundai are looking to try and purchase a Formula One team now. They're interested in joining. Formula One is attracting endless attention. The market is incredibly small. We have 10 spots on the grid because apparently it can't open up to any more than that. And you've got a team that has a secondary sister team that runs a junior program, but they're choosing not to run a junior program. They're running a man in his mid-30s and another guy who's been there for 4 years that's never going to get the promotion. I just don't think it's viable. I don't think it's working as intended. If you're keeping Perez there, take a risk. Put 2 drivers in. You know what? It don't matter if you crash 10 times out of the 20. If you've got the raw pace and you can develop, it's worth doing. That's the point of the team.
Yeah. I follow that logic because, like you say, if you were to give Perez a 1 year deal, it makes sense to at least keep one of them around as like an insurance option, right? But if you are going to give him a 2 year deal, certainly Tsunoda at this point has, I believe I saw this earlier, Tsunoda has raced more times for the junior team. Obviously, it's had different names. He's raced more times for that team than anyone else who has not gone on to race for Red Bull at this stage. So he's there not doing it. And you could argue at this point, Tsunoda has improved quite a bit this year. If he hasn't done enough this year, when is he realistically going to do enough? And Daniel Ricciardo, like, if Daniel Ricciardo gets a seat over Liam Lawson next year, I will be disappointed because I think that would be a bad call. I think Lawson should be in that seat next year rather than Ricciardo. Like you say, if you don't trust Ricciardo to get to Red Bull, why is he there?
Yeah. Do you want to know a fun fact about Daniel Ricciardo? Well, it's a fun fact about me that just relates to Daniel Ricciardo. He has a clothing brand, right? I'm sure you've technically seen his very fancy and lovely clothing brand. I had never heard it said out loud before. You know, when you've read a word a lot of times, you think that's how it must be said. And I thought it was said enchante. And I've realised after watching a video, it's enchanté, you know, the French word.
Another French word.
Another French word comes to get me.
Barney Clover from Enchanté?
That's what I thought it was. I thought, oh, Enchanté, that's nice. No, it's enchanté.
Remind us never to do a live show in Paris.
Don't take me to France.
That would be a nightmare.
Harry, do you have any closing thoughts on what Perez's deal means for the future of the junior program? Not much more to add than what you said. I followed that same logic. What do you do with those 2 drivers now? I.e. Tsunoda and Ricciardo, because what is the point in having them around? And maybe this is I think maybe they'll clear the ranks and get two different people in. At least Ricciardo will be cleared out, but as you say, Tsunoda's been there for so long now. Sounds like he's got options as well, Tsunoda. Well, exactly, because, you know,
that maybe the Honda deal with Aston Martin could come into force.
I'll take him at Williams.
Williams could be another option.
Sounds like an outside chance at Alpine as well.
I mean, Pierre Gasly's probably there. Like, I'll swap you, Yuki. Do you want to? It's real good over here. Can I have this one back?
Esteban Ocon goes to Minardi. Yeah.
But yeah, so I totally agree. What's the point of having those there now? And again, it's why I'm surprised at the length of the. I know it's not that long, it's 2 years, but the length of that extension, the length of that contract is too long for Perez there, I think, because I don't know. Red Bull used to have a problem where they used to have to promote drivers too quickly. Now they got a problem where they're keeping the same drivers for quite a long time, which different problem to have. But
yeah,
now they've got drivers backing up again, which they can't seem to hit the sweet spot in terms of when those drivers should be promoted. So it's going to be a tough call for the people at Minardi, because it's not necessarily a bad lineup at that team, but as you say, if it is that junior team, why are you keeping them there for?
Yeah, I think it's a fair point. I mean, when it comes to Sergio Perez as well, I know you somewhat made this point, Harry, and I think I've made this point as well before. Maybe he has just benefited from the amount of turmoil that's happening at that team. Like, if he's attached himself quite well to Christian Horner and this whole power struggle, his case of being one of the very few things that's not changing in the organization, it's not a bad play, is it? So yeah, I do wonder if that's come into it at all.
Bringing Christian Horner a cup of coffee every morning.
Yeah,
Hello,
exactly,
Christian.
yeah.
How's your day today?
So I was going to try and do a Christian Horner impression there.
I was going to try and do a Sergio Perez impression there. So
End the segment. We're going to break, surely.
Break time. Alpine on the other side.
Oh, no.
We're going in reverse chronological order back to Monday's news, which is that Alpine and Esteban Ocon have announced that they will part ways at the end of this season. Ocon has been with the team since 2020 under its Renault guys at that point, but he'll depart after 5 seasons with the Enstone team at the end of this year. Harry, your reaction? That's not the same as Sunday's reaction.
What else is there to say? Alpine? For goodness sake. Right. Okay. Now, they said it's by mutual agreement, which, quite frankly, is horse manure. That is rubbish. I do not believe that. And this is... there's so many things here. This, again, if this is off the back of Monaco, which... it reeks of it being off the back of Monaco, then that is the most ridiculous decision I've ever heard in my life. But Alpine, again, you have to keep... I'm not going to say stop firing people. Hire people or keep people. I don't know how else to say this.
People good.
Just people good. People are good for team. Maybe it needs to be a Kevin Malone approach where fewer words do trick.
Hey, I'm willing to try anything with them at this point.
More people do F1 team.
Exactly. My actual point here is Alpine have got so many problems at the moment. One of them being people or lack of them. But the struggle within the team to get anywhere. The car's terrible most of the time in the moment. The one thing that wasn't wrong was their driver lineup. So what have they done? They've decided to get rid of one, because that's the logical conclusion. And from what I've read a couple of times, their other driver, i.e. Pierre Gasly, I don't think he wants to stay there either, because, quite frankly, why would you? So at this rate, they could end up with nothing. The one thing that not forgot, but it got reminded when obviously this kicked off on Monday. Do you remember that time, not that long ago, when Alpine... this is literally 2 years ago. Alpine had a problem where they had to choose between 3 drivers for 2 seats. Those 3 drivers being Esteban Ocon, Oscar Piastri, and Fernando Alonso. They fumbled the lot of them. They've all gone. Is that
no disrespect to Jack Doohan, but
yeah?
So the bag is fumbled.
The lot of them have now gone out the door, which is absolute lunacy, quite frankly. How can you have a two-time world champion, obviously in Alonso, Oscar Piastri, who might be one of the brightest young talents to come up into F1 for a while, and Esteban Ocon, who is a bloody decent driver, and they've all gone. They're all going to, by the end of this year, they'll have all gone. And it's all your own doing, Alpine. You bunch of muppets. I've got nothing else to say. It's just, that's just madness. And again, I don't know what the reason is for this decision. Again, I can't understand it. But if it has got anything to do with Monaco, that is just utter lunacy.
I have thoughts.
Okay, let's hear them.
Buckle in.
Firstly, I have to say, welcome to the club, Esteban Ocon. Welcome to the club of those that have either left Alpine or have been fired by Alpine. You join such alumni as Oscar Piastri, Fernando Alonso, Otmar Safnauer, Alan Permain, Alain Prost, Bob Bell, Rob White, Lauren Rossi, Dirk De Beer, Matt Harmon, Daniel Ricciardo, Cyril Abitbol, Davide Brivio, Marcin Budkowski, and Pat Fry. And you're probably thinking, oh, that's a long list. How far does that go back? 15 years? 4! It goes back 4 years. How can you lose that many people in that time?
All those people would make a great team.
A real good team.
Probably would. And you know what connects every single name on that list that Esteban Ocon is soon to join? They all wake up in the morning, every morning with a smile on their face. And do you know why? Because they don't have to go to work for Alpine anymore. It's a joke of a team. As you say, Harry, how far down the goddamn list do you have to go before you get to driver lineup as an issue? It's not an issue. They've got so many problems. Trent Alexander-Arnold is still on the right front wheel, for goodness sake. Sort yourselves out. This was stupid. This does sound like it was Alpine-driven rather than Ocon-driven. Here's a guy who won a race for you a couple of years ago. Here's a guy who matched a two-time world champion in Fernando Alonso, and you are voluntarily getting rid of him. Unless you have pulled off the deal of a century and you need to make room for the incoming Max Verstappen, it is stupid.
I swear to God, if that's announced tomorrow, that's going to be...
I'm losing my mind. I'll quit the show if it happens tomorrow.
Oh,
Sam,
God.
what do you think?
Mate, I've got nothing else to add. That rant was ridiculous. That was my level of anger. I mean, Harry, you spoke about horse manure, and this does absolutely reek of a insider Alpine job of trying to get rid of Ocon, and they've gone, we finally got the reason. He's absolutely destroying his teammate in Monaco and wiped us out of a chance of a double points finish. Pull the plug. Get rid of him. But I don't understand why you want to get rid of him. As you've said time after time, he matched a two-time champion. He's been fantastic all year. He walks into the building with the biggest smile on his face while everyone else is pushing around buckets of depression in that employment area because no one works there and it's a horrible work environment. And Ocon's the only shining light that you actually had. So get him out the door. See you later. Bye-bye. Thanks very much. So... yeah, I mean, they've given away the free practice seat already, haven't they? Dewey's already going to be in that for Canada.
What a week to just wait a race. What are you doing?
I imagine they'll pan across the Alpine garage and Ocon will be nose to the wall in the corner with a Dunks helmet on his head. I'm a very naughty boy.
I know what will read well for everyone else in watching F1. If the driver we've just sacked, or by mutual agreement, we take his seat away in FP1 for the rookie. Good stuff.
Good, isn't it? Do you know how we all... Go on, Ben.
So the thing is, based on Ocon's 5-place penalty, it actually does make sense to use it up this weekend, but no one will look at it that way, right? Everyone will look at it that way instead.
Yeah, and I can't believe that we were all going on about how ridiculous it would be that Ocon might be dropped for the Grand Prix and Dewey might fill in his place. It's worse than that. He's lost his seat permanently because of what went on. Alpine, sell the team. Sell it. Because you are remember how Haas were the joke and they did nothing? You are a admin mess. Set it on fire and put it in the bin. There's also rumours of Zhou Guanyu being the driver to take Ocon's place, right? Because he's ex-Alpine Academy. And I know that the president of Renault, not personally, but through news stories, is very excited to have the opportunity to sell his cars to a 1.8 or whatever it is billion strong country in China. And Zhou Guanyu opens that door. So that rumour mill is thoroughly on the run.
No offense to Zhou Guanyu, lovely chap, decent driver, but that would be ridiculous.
Is he selling 1.8 billion Alpines?
But
If he does, fair.
But even from just from a driving point of view, you get rid of Esteban Ocon for Zhou Guan Yu. And again, I mean, with all the respect in the world to Zhou Guan Yu, but come on.
He's Ocon without the O at the start.
Goodness me. We'll let you work that out yourself, folks.
Where does Ocon go, Harry?
I think for a lie down in a bar with a strong drink in his hand, because my God, my man, he needs a rest. I was going to say as well, Sam, you mentioned he was quite a happy, jolly fellow. He's obviously an absolute menace on the track sometimes. But Ocon could have, when this year started as it did for Alpine, he had every right to lose it and be like, do you know what? This is rubbish. I can't believe I've stuck around here for so long and you give me this absolute pile of garbage. But no, he was really good about it. And he was like, don't worry. He got into Q2 in, was it, Australia? And it's like he's won the championship. It was ridiculous. And he was so enthusiastic and positive about their plight. And that's how they'd repay him. Anyway, where should he go? There aren't a huge amount of options left for him on the grid. I mean, there's the Audi option with the current Sauber team, but one of those is already taken with Nico Hülkenberg. I tell you what, an Ocon Hülkenberg lineup is pretty solid.
That reeks of mid-table.
Yeah, I know, but solid.
That's
solid mid-table. But yeah, I mean, there's that option. Obviously, there's a Williams seat flying about. There could be 2 seats at Minardi potentially next year. Who knows? His manager's Toto Wolff. What do we reckon? The
boy thinks he's getting a Mercedes drive, doesn't he? He still thinks it.
He's racing for Alpine and WEC next year anyway, Mick.
That's where Toto puts his drivers. All right, Esteban, off you go, son.
It's like the cupboard. I can't actually store you in one place. We'll get in the supercar, in the hypercar for WEC, please.
In you go.
Yeah. The choices are limited, obviously. I could see him off to that Sauber seat. I could see him off to the Williams seat, but it's
Haas?
It's been spoken about as well.
The problem is for Ocon, none of the options are great. The ones that could build into something, but it's whether that team's going to commit to that is. You'd have to say Sauber or potentially Williams. Haas probably aren't going to go. They could just be where they are because that's Haas. The other two might have the potential to go somewhere else, and that could be a project for Ocon. But there are also other drivers floating about, like Carlos Sainz, and I'm not saying I think they're relatively level skill wise, Ocon and Sainz, but Sainz has had the bit, his resume's got the bigger team on it, and I think that will end up counting for more.
I know who I sign. I know out the two who I'm going for.
Me too. But I think if you look to the face of it you go, actually, they're pretty similar. But I think you've made this point before, Ben. But yeah, he's up against Sainz, who also needs a seat. So it's going to be tough for Ocon.
Yes, I think it will be. Obviously, he'll be hoping that Mercedes is an option. I don't think it is, but I think they'll go with Antonelli on that one. But I think there is Haas, Sauber, and Williams. You're right; they're all floating around, but there is a serious chance that Esteban Ocon is not on the grid next year. If you think Haas might well decide that actually they do want to go with the strategy that we've spoken about for years, which is keep one driver and replace the other one. And if they do, I know it's crazy, right? In which case, Magnussen and Behrman, they could theoretically go with that lineup. If Carlos Sainz decides to go for Williams, then suddenly that seat's taken. And then you're essentially getting to the point where Sauber have a decision of Bottas, Zhou, or Ocon for that second seat alongside Nico Hülkenberg. And I think there's a realistic chance that, at least between Bottas and Ocon, they might just go with the known quantity, which is Valtteri Bottas at that point. And if those 3 seats don't become available, I don't know where he's going. So I think they're all open for him. I think they're all possibilities, but equally, it's not difficult to see them all closing, and he might struggle to get on the grid for next year. What do you think, Sam?
No, I 100% agree. I think that I don't think that Williams is actually a shot. It is if everyone else says no. And that's the problem for Ocon. He's essentially under the influence of everyone else around him. He is seen as trouble. He's almost a bit like Fernando Alonso without the accolades around him. You know, the guy that used to burn bridges or used to frustrate people was Alonso, but Alonso had multiple race wins, had like 2 world championships, and had driven for teams like proper Renault when they were good, and Ferrari and McLaren Mercedes, right? He had a great resume that you could kind of back him up with and go, well, he's a bit of a problem child, but boy, is he quick. Whereas Ocon is kind of a midfield runner that's been dropped once already, that's had multiple collisions with his teammate and has barely won anything. Oh, it's a tricky position for him to be in. Not only that, it's one of the biggest grid reshuffles we've seen in a long time. There are multiple seats open. But in every single instance, I think there's another driver that is comfortably in front of him in the pecking order. As you've already mentioned, Kimi Antonelli looks like the option for Mercedes, and I think that feels fair. When it comes to Williams, maybe now Sainz feels like the moving option. If not, I reckon they could take one of the Minardi guys like Tsunoda, as we've already mentioned there. And then you look at the other 2 teams that are available to him. Sauber, which is becoming Audi. Vettel is still quietly in conversation, I think, with that route because they want an all-German driver lineup. But Bottas makes sense as a stable head that's won races, that's bringing a big team that is a direct competitor of Audi. And then, of course, you've got Haas. Magnussen's, a bit of a unknown quantity at times, but he's committed and loyal to that team, and he's also got the benefit that Gene Haas is his friend and knows who he is. Gene Haas doesn't know Ocon exists.
Esteban,
who is this man? And Behrman obviously helps with the Ferrari deal, which makes sense if that goes down that avenue. So it would be a real shame to see it happen twice in so many years, but Ocon could be just out of it, and I don't know if it might be for good this time if Ocon's out of a drive.
Under pressure time. We've got some Discord submissions, but we will start off with our own under pressure submissions for this Canadian Grand Prix. Harry, start us off.
My under pressure for this weekend, and I know we just spoken about him, but Esteban Ocon, and not through any fault of his own, but I feel like he's under pressure just to deliver a real FU performance, like a shove it up your arse Alpine. Have some of them apples.
Ooh,
so that
up there.
Well, no, obviously not. You don't want apples up yet. Anyway, I'll go for Ocon because I think, not through any fault of his own, but he's under pressure to just smash it out of the park.
I'm going super vague with my under pressure. My under pressure is F1 because, as you've said, Harry, it feels like we're on the cusp of being able to say that this could be something of a competitive season, but we're not quite there yet. And I feel like this race could decide a lot. There's 16 points between Ferrari and Red Bull in the Constructors' Championship. It is close. If Ferrari deliver another good result here, then I think there is a legitimate case to say, game on. But if Verstappen wins this by 25 seconds and we go back to what it was like in, say, China or the first couple of races of the year, then that might die down very quickly. It feels like we're on the precipice of something quite good. We're not quite there yet. And I feel like F1's under pressure to deliver. Sam?
I'm going to deliver the old Classico, Logan Sargent. I genuinely believe that this is his absolute final chance. I know that the 3 of us all believe, time has come and gone, but it looks like James Vowles and Williams believe there's still something left in there. I think the car should do relatively well here. They're bringing upgrades. They feel confident in it. I think he's actually going back to a standard chassis in Canada now, so it should be a level playing field. He's got to put a great performance in. I'm not saying beat Albon, but be right there, show pace, should be clean, don't crash the car. I think if you muck it up this weekend, Logan, you are gone. You are absolutely gone. So I think he's got to deliver.
Let's hear from our lovely Discord members, shall we?
Let's. First up, obviously, Ben didn't even ask for this.
No.
She was straight in there. It's beef.
Hello. Well. What's going on? Oh, Beef is coming to the live show. Woo! So can't wait for that. I went to Bongo's Bingo this weekend. I was not well the next day, but I had a fabulous time. And I'm seeing Taylor Swift this week. Yeah! So I'm in a really good mood. Under pressure is the Mercs, because you're a bit in no man's land at the moment. So maybe don't do that. Okay, bye.
It's a great shout.
Yeah,
Put it
that's
in
a
the book.
great shout. Definitely put it in the book.
Coming to the live show is beef. Live show beef.
Live show beef. Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, that's an incentive to come to the live show, isn't it?
Yeah, don't come for us. Come for the beef meet and greet.
Anyway, next up is JT0152.
Well done.
Hi guys, JT from Manchester here. Under pressure this week has to be Crash to ban Ocon. If he doesn't show as a team player soon, he'll be racing in WEC next year. Cheers.
Oh.
Thank you for that. Next up is Kale A. Davies. Or Kaylee.
Hi, New Breaking. I'm Kalia. This is my first
Still
ever
wrong.
submission. I am from Canada, and so I'm saying that what's under pressure is the size of our country because
where that was going.
I have to drive 7 hours just to get from Toronto to Montreal on my birthday to go watch this Grand Prix. And I'm so excited. See you.
Oh, that was a journey. Thank you for your first time. Harry got your name wrong twice.
We've never had the size of a country under pressure before. That's great.
Something.
Goodness me. I tell you what, Sam struggles with French names. I apparently struggle with English names.
Names.
Well,
Just names.
just a trio. We'll get there.
We'll get there. Next. Oh, God. Next up is from apparently Scouser Liam, but he's prefaced this with, sorry to anyone I offended, I lost a bet. So,
oh dear.
Sorry, everyone. Here we go.
Right, I'm being serious now. Esteban Ocon needs to just pick himself up, put himself on the market for next season, show Alpine that they've done something wrong again. That's all from me. Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, the Scouse Liam, that is. Shaking on a caracal.
Wow. Next. Anyway, that was actually Bristol Liam, if you can believe that.
No way.
Next up is Emma Scott.
Hi guys, Emma from Scotland here, long-time listener, first-time submitter. My under pressure for the Canadian GP is Checo, off the back of that Red Bull announcement of a 2-year deal extension. I feel like he really needs to not screw things up this week. Maybe even do something good. I don't know. What do you guys think? Okay, love the podcast. Bye.
Well, thanks, Emma. We love a first-timey.
We do love a first-timey. And then finally, we've got Sebalicious.
Oh.
Hello, it is Northern Seb, as I'm doing some design training in Glasgow.
Oh, God.
Where the taps don't, dispense water, they dispense pure carling. My under pressure is the crazily average Gasly, who has now got rid of his mortal enemy. So maybe should start, driving faster. Doodles.
Oh, thank you, Northern Seb. Enjoy your carling.
Just to clarify, for anyone who's not been to Glasgow, I mean, I haven't, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't dispense pure carling from the taps there.
Writing, if you're from Glasgow, let us know. None of us have been.
I think, as submission segments go, that's probably one of the better ones.
I really enjoy that our listeners are starting to either imitate and take the mickey out of each other, like a metaverse. We're in the submission verse now.
Sure. Oh man, I'm exhausted. We've still got higher or lower to come. We'll take our final break at this point. We'll be back with that game on the other side.
We do go on.
Okay, everyone, welcome back. It's time for F1 higher or lower.
Is F1 higher? Is F1 lower? Is Sam faster? Is Harry slower? F1 higher? F1 lower? F1. I really hit every note.
It's a bit of an underrated one, that one.
That's a different game, mate.
Fact. So 6 questions, higher or lower, very simple game. Harry and Sam will take it in turns to guess a certain number, which will be the answer to a question that I give. If they're right, which doesn't happen all that often, but if they are right straight away, they get 2 points. If they're wrong, which is usually the case, these are difficult questions, the other person will get to say whether the guess was wrong based on should it be higher or lower. If they are right, they get a point. But if they're wrong, the person who guessed it at first gets the point. Numbers 1 through 6, as always. Sam, kick us off.
I'll have number 5, please, Ben.
Number 5. How many races have been red flagged since the start of 2022?
Oh, crikey. Can I ask a clarifying question?
You can.
If the races have more than one red flag, does it count as more than one?
That's 1.
Okay, thank you for the clarify. I won't get it right anyway.
Good job you clarified that one, Sam.
Hey, someone out there might be very picky who actually knows the answer. Since 2022, I'm going to go with 14.
It is not 14. Harry, higher or lower?
Lower.
It is lower. 9 races since the start of 2022. For anyone interested, Monaco 2022 when Mick Schumacher crashed. British Grand Prix of 22 when Zhou and Russell crashed on the first lap. 22 Japan when there was crazy rain. 23 Australia where we had 3 red flags. Dutch Grand Prix later that year where Zhou crashed. Magnussen's crash at the Mexican Grand Prix of the same year. Brazilian Grand Prix in 2023. And then we've had 2 so far this year. Japanese Grand Prix on the first lap and Monaco last time out, obviously. Harry gets the point and it's your turn. What number would you like?
Number 4.
You could literally only say one number and be wrong. You avoided it. Well done. How many points did Charles Leclerc score in his debut year in F1?
He scored 53.
He did not score 53. Sam, higher or lower than 53?
Oh, I actually think that was a really good guess. His car wasn't great. I'm going to say lower.
You would be right for saying lower. 53 is a pretty solid guess. 39 he had. Good for a first year in a Sauber. Sam, back to you.
Number 6, please, Ben.
Number 6. How many race wins has Alain Prost had?
Oh, quite a lot. 53.
Lower. It's not 53. Higher or lower than that, Harry?
Higher.
You are wrong. It is not higher. Ooh. I think, to be fair, I think Sam deserves a point because you were not far off at all. He's had 51 wins.
Oh, I knew it was low 50s.
Yeah. It's a good guess, that. And it gives Sam a 2-1 lead as we go back to Harry. Numbers 1, 2, and 3 are left.
Number 1, please.
Number 1. How many points did Lewis Hamilton win the 2014 season by?
This is pick a number out the sky stuff.
No, give it some thought. I'm not saying you'll get to the right answer, but give it some thought. You can get close, I think, when you remember what happened.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he won it by 23 points.
He did not win it by 23 points. Sam, higher or lower?
I'm going to say higher.
It was higher. It's a bit of a misleading one because it was a championship decider in Abu Dhabi. But if you remember, there were 50 points for a win, which Lewis Hamilton got, and Nico Rosberg scored nothing. So he actually won the championship by 67 points, despite the fact that we were in a championship decider.
I thought Rosberg finished that. I know he had a problem, but I thought he finished the race.
I mean, he might well have finished the race, but I think he was outside the points.
Not on the points. No, fair.
Yeah. Which
what a
means,
great idea that was.
Yeah, cheers, Bernie.
Sam, you can't lose. You're 3-1 up with 2 to play. But what number would you like?
3.
There it is. How many days were there between the first and last race of the 2020 season?
I really thought you were going to say in a year.
It's a F1 question, yes.
Okay, that's interesting. All right, okay, hold on. I can kind of do this badly in my head, I think. 197.
It's not 197. Higher or lower than that, Harry?
Higher.
It's not higher. 161. I haven't written this down annoyingly, but it was like the first 8 races or so were crazy. Bear in mind, 161 races. I think that was pretty much a race every 10 days because we started so late in the year, but still got a good number of races in because of all the double headers and the like. But
yeah, I was a month out in my calculations. That's why I was about 30 days later than what you said.
But you are 4-1 up with 1 to play. Harry, would you like number 2 or number 2?
Number 2, please.
Good choice.
No problem at all. What was Valtteri Bottas's pole time at the 2020 Sakir Grand Prix?
57 seconds.
It's not 57 seconds. Higher or lower, Sam?
Higher, longer.
It took him more time to get round.
More time, yes.
That's incorrect. It was 53.4 seconds.
Wow.
You remember he just about managed to get ahead of George Russell, making an appearance ahead of instead of Lewis Hamilton, who was recovering from COVID. And I think Valtteri Bottas was probably very relieved that he just about outqualified him. Yeah,
I would have asked for clarification on the outer ring aspect because knowing me, I would have gone for the full length Grand Prix instead of like 132.
It's true, yeah. No, he was better than that, Valtteri Bottas. Sam, 4-2 win. Well done.
That's delightful, that is. Don't get one often like that, so I'll take it.
I'm sure you really liked that segment. In fact, it was a great segment, but there's one thing that it wasn't. It wasn't the greatest segment in all of podcasting. It is the
LB question of the week.
We got too much to get through. I think I can't be hanging about.
That's a fair point. Our question of the week, again related to Esteban Ocon. We asked the question, what was the real reason that Alpine and Esteban Ocon parted ways? There were a lot of observations. Nearly all of them contained either Barry Manilow and or Otmar Safnauer's 9 kids, but that's standard, I guess. Any that caught your eye?
Well, I mean, Daniel Bedford tops it off with the trifecta of late-breaking references with the girth of Gasly's sausage was too great.
I almost messaged you earlier to say, don't you dare read that out.
And I'm proud that I've done that.
And it was the first one.
On a more serious note, Alex Campbell said to join IndyCar so we can have more teammates to fight, which I thought was great. That was very funny. Yeah, that was good.
Excellent answer.
So there's a lot. We've got loads on Instagram.
Yeah. We had Brant, who said Otmar's 100 race plan, fire Ocon after 65 races. Sure, I'm sure that was the actual reason. Someone said Alpine had too many employees. And Tim, and this is a joke, I think, but actually the more you read it, the more you go, he signed a contract with Andretti for 2025.
Ooh.
I've heard worse things.
I mean, we've got to make reference to some of the excellent Otmar kids ones.
Yeah, there's so many. There's as many kids as there are references.
Yeah. To take a job as a nanny for Otmar's kids, obviously, that was an excellent one. Someone said that Ocon was having Otmar's kids, which I thought was weird.
Yeah.
One just said, Shannon 147 just said magnets.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, sure.
I love those answers. They're my favourite. They make no sense.
I want to give a shout out to Anisha, who said they told him to stop fighting teammates, and he responded, "Never back down, never surrender." And as he did a 300, kicked the car and yelled, "This is Alpine!" Great 300 reference.
There was one on Twitter I very much liked, and it was from F1 Tommy, who said that Ocon was caught in the dressing room, and it turns out he's actually 2 10-year-olds with a trench coat.
That's excellent.
That really got me.
This one's an excellent one. Vanna1 on Instagram said, Ocon's left because Pierre Gasly kept leaving the toilet seats up.
Honestly, infuriating. Barry on Instagram said, Harry told him how much people are paying monthly for his Patreon podcast, and Ocon decided to start his own.
That would be fine with me, but man who doesn't understand the value of money could understand why that could happen.
Oh, yeah, I forget they're 2 different people.
They're 2 very different people.
Yes. There was another answer I really liked on Instagram. Again, this got me quite a lot, and it was from Marina. And they said his contract was due to expire and was not renewed.
Factually correct.
Factually not wrong.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, and some Some woman here called Laura just said it's an act of protest against Laura's podcast ban. I don't know who that is. So
I don't know what ban.
I didn't see that.
she snuck in an hour ago, mate. So she knows the game.
She probably heard my Ocon rant before. Shut up, Ben, and put an answer in.
Goodness me.
Another great one. Thank you ever so much for all of your hilarious answers. Really appreciate all your engagement. We'll come back with another question very soon, of course. It's been a long episode. Sam, would you mind doing the honours and get us out of here?
Oh, folks, I'll keep it short. If you want tickets to the live show before they go on general sale on Saturday, then go and join the Patreon. Check it out. It supports us massively. And we're thankful to everyone that's already bought tickets and everyone that already subscribes to Patreon. Discord, the link's in the description. Get involved. You might hear yourself on the podcast over the weekend when we do our race review, which we are all together for. So that's always a fun episode. Look out for that one as well. Stick around for the weekend. We're going to have a qualifying review episode and a full race review episode. And we'll have our power rankings on Patreon on Monday. Follow us on social media for updates and silly stories and captions and all things like that, which happen over social. Late Breaking F1 everywhere. You can also watch this because we put it on YouTube now. Late Breaking F1. Give it a follow. We appreciate all the love. Comment down below something really, really weird that only we'll get because we listen to the show. I think that's it. Thanks for listening. In the meantime, I've been Samuel Sage.
I've been Ben Hawking.
I've been Ben sat in a dark room, which will only make sense for people.
Why is it so
Look
dark?
at your YouTube. Ben is sat in a dark room.
Well, I haven't got the lights on, have I?
Why haven't you bought a light yet?
I already have. It hasn't arrived.
Keep breaking late.
Yeah, keep breaking late.